Hi everybody, Sandy Castillo here. Hope you're doing well. For this video, I am going to share some tips and tricks on how to secure and win and earn many different cancer survivorship scholarships. Scholarships to do lots of things, to go different places, to meet doctors, to learn about new research, and even talk to other survivors. What I call cross-pollinating programs to help everybody, to be more inclusive. So actually this happened, I had a phenomenal year in 2013 and ended up in Eric Rosenthal's blog that year. He was at San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium looking for a story, and I ended up just talking to him, and I had no idea that I would end up being in his blog. So I recently found my poster, which is hanging behind me, and when I post this video, I'll go on and put in the an image of this poster as well so you can see it, and also a link to the blog if you're interested. But this is for anybody and everybody to be an advocate for what you believe in, especially in regards to healthcare and how it affects people and diseases. This is specifically, I'm going to tell you my story as a breast cancer survivor. So flashback to, what year was that? I don't even know, 2009. I was actually on the phone with my then boyfriend, and I was actually laying in my bed. We were just talking, and I remember I turned over. How did it work? I had it like this, and I turned over. Oh, it was this hand. And I turned over, and I had felt something on my arm and from my chest, and it scared me. So I didn't know what it was. It felt like a little peanut. I wasn't sure what it was. And after biopsy, obviously it was breast cancer. And a little pre-story before that is then I've been a healthcare advocate and aerobic instructor, aerobic instructor and group exercise director, and oh goodness, I've been a triathlete for many, many years. So a health food addict. So I barely even took aspirin as it was. So when I was diagnosed, I obviously was very scared. So I made it through. I ended up having to do chemo and radiation and surgery. I got to keep my breast. And after that, it really changed my life. I know going through cancer, you can't tell anybody that there's any silver linings or there's any good things or it's a blessing because you might get punched. I know I would have done the same thing because it was pretty intense. I lost all my hair. I lost a lot of things. It just kind of wipes the world clean for you, which was a good thing. So I got a lot of really great things out of it. But my point in telling you this story is that everybody's story is their own and comes from their heart, and hopefully, and you can use your story because we need people with stories to share them to the right people. I say this because as a legislative advocate, when you go to, like when I go to Austin to advocate for healthcare or expanded resources for people, very rarely did I see many survivors. I remember in one specific example, I think it was a Komen event, and there were about 70 of us advocating, and yes, I have this picture in my head now. I think there were 6 of us, 6 survivors, because this is when Amber was alive too. So, and I remember we were all huddling together, and I said, girls, separate, go, like grab some people and go. We can't stay together. We've got to spread our message and inspire people as much as possible. We can't stay together. Keep going, keep going. So I say that because there are some diseases where there aren't any survivors, so nobody's there to tell stories unless there's loved ones. So please share your story. I know a lot of people just want to forget about it and move on. I've been there too. I used to wear black in October. Now I'm back to hot pink, I'm black to magenta, but please share your story. So, okay, so first you need a story. So if you've been through something and it was icky, You learned a lot about it. The point is to turn around and to share your information. So I've been a breast cancer. You're a survivor the day that you're diagnosed. It's not when you're done with chemo. It's not when you're done with anything. It's not even your first year after survivorship. It's that day, because a lot of people never make it to that day, or in the past, they barely made it after that day. So we have to show great appreciation for everything and everyone that's come before us, to help everybody get to where we are right now. Okay, so you're gonna take your story, and for me, I had been in marketing and sales for years before that, and actually I was recruited during chemo back to one of the companies that I worked for, and they were lovely. They said, here's the key to the massage room in case you need to relax, because I was in the middle of chemo. And here's the phone number to the chef, call him if you're hungry. But I just worked. I was just working to keep my mind off of what was happening, so work is a good thing too. And also to earn health insurance so I could get radiation, so I could continue. So everybody's story, like I said, is different, but the point is that good things and bad things happen, of course, as you're going. Your experience is going to be completely different than mine. There were lots of low points too, low points and high points. Actually, I was chosen as one of the 30 faces of breast cancer, and they videotaped a story of mine because mine was really funny. Mine wasn't funny. The title of my video was "Social Media Saved My Life," because I had moved. I was living in Colorado, and then we moved to Switzerland, and then I was going through a separation. I came back, and that's when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I hadn't lived in Texas in 15 years. And so I felt like I didn't know anybody. And so I was on social media a lot. Everybody was connecting to me from all over, from Colorado, from Switzerland, just trying to support me. So that when I did go to chemo, they would just be reminding me about fun things and snowboarding, and I would just be chatting with everybody, through my phone. So I could just get through it. I wanted to get in and get out, of course. So that was really, really interesting. Social media did save my life, actually. So I'm really proud of that. And the reason I shared this story was for other people because you do feel alone. And I try to tell people that you're not alone. What is it, Yana? You're not alone when you're going through these things. And your family, obviously, everybody wants to support you and help you, but only other people who've been through this really know how, what to do and what to say and to talk to you. So that's where CanCare comes in, because I became a volunteer through CanCare afterwards as well, so that I could talk to people. They would give me phone numbers of people who were recently diagnosed with the same kind of cancer, about the same age range, because for some reason, you want this. I just had to talk to somebody who had been through it, and I couldn't find anybody. And in walks the Young Survival Coalition, because it supports young women affected by breast cancer, because I was 39 at the time, and most people were older. It was, breast cancer was your grandmother's disease, not anymore. So all of the support that I received during cancer, I wanted to give back. So I ended up volunteering for them and promoting them, or becoming an advocate for them. And I think that's a great way to start at the beginning. Start where, what helped you, and continue helping other people. And again, I will make sure that the image of the poster is with this video, and also there is I had a list of all the nonprofits too, if you're interested in terms of breast cancer, because they always need wonderful volunteers, and you can volunteer in different ways and throughout different lifetimes of your future too. I used to be much more involved, and I just like to pick and choose and do fun things. So, but at the beginning, I just had to try everything once. That's just me. Another opportunity is called Project Lead, and that's through the National Breast Cancer Coalition. That's NBCC. So Project LEAD, I don't even know if they have it anymore, but it was this incredible research training down in Southern California. And you had to get a recommendation to go. And that's on my poster, which I'm going to share with you. There are lots of things typically you need to apply for any of these scholarships. So let me just tell those to you real quick. So there's obviously a list of nonprofits. You're going to find out which conferences you want to go to and why, like if you want to talk to clinicians, if you want to see the latest in research. And let me tell you, when you know your cancer, you want to know the latest research in your cancer, because there isn't one cancer. Everybody has their own cancer. So for me, going to San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, which thankfully is right here in Texas, in San Antonio once a year, and now it's online this year. Love that I can actually see the latest research in estrogen positive breast cancer in the world. All of the clinicians around the world come here once a year. So that is a fantastic one. And while I'm on that subject, I'll just say that patient advocate program is hosted by the Alamo Breast Cancer Foundation. And they're a phenomenal group, great group of ladies and men. And what they do is the conference is huge. The conference room it's not even a room. It's like 2 football fields. There's people from all over the world. There's constantly translators. And so when you get to listen to, or you find a presentation that matters to you, you can go all the way to the front. And they have a roped off area just for patient advocates through this program. So you can go up there and actually see the people and hear. And they have big video screens too with all of their latest research. So Alamo Breast Cancer, they also give you a topic, like a really good topic, and a presentation. And then what you do is you go and listen to it. I recorded it. I listened to it over and over and over, and then you basically write a paper or a short paper where you translate. You kind of turn all this research knowledge into layman's terms. So at least this is what I did years ago. This is a long time ago, so everything's probably a little bit different. But it's so interesting because once you come out of Project LEAD, which is this summertime educational conference, and you learn so much. You learn why there's cancer and why there isn't a cure and what's happening and what does this mean, and it's fantastic. Even if you have a research background, it's excellent. So that was perfect to go from Project LEAD to join Alamo Breast Cancer Foundation and get in the patient advocate program. I went to San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, and then of course they give you something that you're interested in. So I think mine was on the Calor trials, which is estrogen positive breast cancer patients, and I think it was looking at long-term survival. So I still have my paper. It's amazing. So it just gave me a better perspective on the future of my cancer, the future of research, because I'm wholly believe in research. I've even donated my own breast cancer. I did do that, but I also donated healthy breast tissue to the Komen Healthy Breast Tissue Bank, so that instead of looking for cancer cures, they can also figure out why healthy breast tissue even turns into cancer. So they never had a healthy breast tissue bank before, and Baylor down in Houston was part of that, and I was thrilled I gave it on my other breast, but so I was thrilled to give some beautiful little puffy cells. Okay, so you're gonna need obviously your list of what conferences you're interested in, or if you hear about something, look into it, find out who's hosting it, go to that website, click on a newsletter, whatever it might be, so that you can know the application date, because it's a big deal. When I was going through it, I just wanted to apply on time. That's just me. So application deadlines, they do accept caregivers to apply as well. So you can do that, survivor and caregivers. They also many of them asked for like a focus statement, like why are you here? What are you doing? What are you going to do with this information? Why should we give you a scholarship to come? And let me just share you that scholarships included a lot of things. It was great. They would pay for your flight. Once you got there, they had hotel rooms for you. They even had food for you. It was so catered. They had your own special programs for you, so you got to get together and meet everybody. And then you were off on the conference, and the best part was the lounge. They would have a lounge set up privately just for all the patient advocates to go, because the place is so huge, conference rooms. And so I loved that. So I got to meet amazing advocates from all over the world, and some of them I would only see at the conferences, and we would just totally catch up on some really great programs and connections, and just being that resource when we went back to our own states, our own area. Constituency, so that just means people. So for instance, as an advocate for Young Survivor Coalition, I supported women under around 45. So I supported people like Amber. She was in her 20s. And even through CanCare, I've had my very first advocate who I was asked to call. I've been calling her for over like 10 years, 11 years. We still talk at least once a month. And she has actually had 3 breast cancer scares in that time. So, but she's had breast cancer twice. So there's lots of people. It just depends on who you're working with. Just being a little bit more specific is really good. A recommendation. So for instance, if you're with Komen, they typically want a recommendation from your local Komen chapter. So for instance, when I was in Colorado, I connected with them and applied for some applications and supported their researchers while I was in Colorado, but now I'm back in Texas. So you just have to reach out and give them plenty of time. They always hate that when you're like, oh, by the way, I needed it at 5 o'clock, or I needed it here or there. So just be ready for that. So again, if you know your application deadline and you know what they need, you can ask for that in advance. And so say for instance, I applied for something here in Texas. So Komen would fill out a recommendation since I'm here, or what have I been doing with Komen here. And years ago, actually, I was a Komen, I forget what you call it. I did the races. I was a media advocate or something. I had a big button. So they were like, ask me. And so did a lot of, promotional TV kind of interviews. Oh, that's it. Yes, I did a lot of interviews for the Komen walks coming up. They always want fresh survivors, good survivors, new stories, people outside, to represent what's going on in the world at the time. So I wouldn't do it now, but I would definitely, if I knew about it, I would send it on to a new survivor or somebody with a new story, so they could share that. And then let's see, partial, full, and travel scholarships. So it just depends where it is. I know that there is a metastatic conference here in Houston, so I can just go. But if somebody wanted to come from Chicago, they may need a scholarship. So you may need to pay for your flight or your travel in advance, and then submit receipts afterwards. They pretty much for all of the conferences, they did have that. So there's a lot that you might have to invest in before you got there. Once you got there, they would take care of you, and then when you left, they would say, how was your trip? What other expenses did you have? So it just depends. And then another one is fundraise. In the past, there was a lot more of that fundraising. And even for YSC has the Tour de Pink, you do have to fundraise to go. At least when I went, it may have changed. So we had a huge fundraiser, and it was at the Toyota Center. We had the largest pink gloved hand dance in Toyota Center history, which was really, really fun and exciting. And in the same year, we used to raise funds for YSC locally here in Texas, and they said, no, we don't need it, just do it individually. So they ended up sending all the funds to my account, and which is lovely. And I think we raised about $8,000 that day. And so riding Tour de Pink was really fun because I'd been a cyclist for about 30 years as it was. I just hadn't ridden on hills. And but it was really fun because the sag wag that would come and pick you up, like I had a calf cramp going up my first hill, and I pulled over, and before I knew it, they had my bike on this Mercedes, and they were like, where would you like to go? Do you want to go shopping? Do you want to go for a cocktail? And I said, no, I just want to get on the top of that hill and then let me go. So I learned real quick just when to ride and when to get out. And it was really, really fun. They take your luggage, and then at your next stop, like at the end of the day, I think it was a 200-mile ride. It was a 3-day ride. They would give you your luggage, they'd take your bike, and then they had the hotel and massages and dinner and stuff like that. So those things are really, really fun. So if you're a triathlete or if you want to try something new, and interesting story is that I had been teaching spinning and Johnny G Spin and Kaiser Power Pacing, you name it, everybody kept changing it, for years and years and years. And so when I was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, and I saw Tour de Pink, I thought, that sounds like fun, but I've never ridden outside. Everybody laughed at that. So the funny thing is that once I got on a bike, I didn't know how to stop, and I was really fast because I just had tons of training. So yeah, I was lightning speed. It was really, really fun. And to be in Southern California for 3 days riding along the coast was magnificent. I'll never forget the last day. I've been learning how to not slow down because I got so scared on all these hills going down. I was actually going too fast. I didn't even have to spin. And they had these trainers riding with us, these really cute trainers too. And one of them kept training me. He's like, Sandy, I need you to count. Just kind of count, which reminded me of snowboarding. The same thing would happen when I would snowboard. He's like, just count. See how far you can go before you start braking. And I would be like, 1, be flying. 2, just going as fast as I could. And so by the last day, I have to say it was a Sunday, I remember this, and it was really overcast. There was a lot of fog, but I could hear the ocean and one of these beautiful rolling hills. And I am just flying, but I don't know how fast I'm going because I can't really see, which is a good thing. So I was just flying, there was nobody out there. And we came down to the stop at the end of the day or something, and then he comes pulling up, and I'm just glowing. And he's like, oh my God, Sandy, how fast are you going? I'm like, I don't know. And so he like pushes my little computer. I think I was doing like 39 or something crazy. And miles per hour. And so I got better through the 3 days. And then I haven't done it since. But so there's a lot of fun things there. And all the survivors had different jerseys. We had different survivor jerseys. And they gave out awards. So if you like to walk, you can do the walks. You can do the walks online. There's also biking. There are triathletes, triathlons. There's so many different things you can do. So anything you can do to get outside and get moving and share your story, that is a triple wonderful thing. So speaking of threes, I called this the trifecta effect because, and you can read about it in the article, there was some legislation that didn't include educated patient advocates. It had just different people making decisions for us. And so we went to Austin and we said with the Alamo group, they do legislative advocacy, which is fantastic. And I said, I just want you to make it inclusive, educated patient advocates. And the legislative aide looked at me and he goes, Sandy, you want the trifecta. That doesn't exist. And I said, well, there's 6 of us right here. So as it turns out, and you'll read about it, they did change the wording. But when it came to choosing people to be on the committee again, I don't even think there were patients, they were business people again. But having a seat at the table includes starting with Project Lead and going to NBCC's advocacy retreat as well, going to San Antonio. I mean, whatever you can do to educate and empower yourself, the better. And especially if it's something that you believe in and you've been a part of. So I think, especially having cancer and connecting online. For me, I used Caring Bridge, and I would blog incessantly. I blogged a lot. I'm a writer, so I like to write. So I would write about everything because I had people reading it in the middle of the night in Costa Rica or Switzerland or Colorado. So I wouldn't have to keep telling my story over and over and over. It was actually a suggestion. Sandy, just post it out there so people know what's going on. So everybody, I don't know, I wanted them to feel more comfortable too. So that is another way to let everybody know what's going on. And for Caring Bridge, people can register if they want to receive a notification or not, or you can make it private. You can do whatever you want. You can just make it however you'd like. I'm sure there's Facebook groups now to follow up with you. And, a lot of times you have to give your phone away. If you're in the middle of surgery or something, like give your phone and somebody can respond and let everybody know how you're doing, not you, which is a good thing. So, so those are the prerequisites that I went through, like the deadlines and what you're gonna do. But let me just tell you, that's just the nuts and bolts. If you feel like you have nothing to share, shame on you, because all you have to do, there's nothing you have to do to research or get ready. I have people call me over and over about this. What do I do now? They've freaked out. What do I do now? I say, you just go. I just want you to breathe. I want you to wear comfortable shoes. I want you to be super comfortable. Just be yourself. Dress warm, because conference rooms are always cold. And enjoy yourself and just be natural, because that's what they need. I actually met researchers and clinicians who spend their entire life working on breast cancer, and they'd never met a survivor. Never. So, for instance, when they write in their research, oh, we're just gonna scan her every day, or no, you're not gonna scan me every day. So they need that, I call it a bridge, just kind of softening, kind of being the layman to help them with their research. And they love it. They want to hear from you. They are thrilled. I'm still on committees. I still get calls. Oh, can you be on this call? Sure, I'll be on a call. Just to be on a call, just to help people, help researchers or help doctors, or even, at MD Anderson, they're also helping a lot of people who are in school. They're working on their doctorate or their PhD or their master's, and they want to talk to somebody who's a Latina, or who's been through and what happened and how did you feel and how did you find your resources, because it totally depends on you being, and this is a good segue about advocacy, you have to be your own advocate. So there's 4 ways to be an advocate. I kind of went backwards, but I'm going to give it to you the real way. So the first way is to be your own advocate. I guess I was. You really have to be your own advocate, but there's a lot of things you don't know that you need, that you don't know until afterwards, or until, I don't know, at the last minute. So there's a lot of resources out there. Okay, for instance, I lost all my hair, I wasn't working, and I needed a wig. So I found this beautiful wig, but it was very expensive. And I was just like, oh God, I can't afford it. I can't even get a wig to look good. I need a job, blah, blah, blah. So when I went to chemo, I don't know how I figured it out. I think it was one of the nurses. The nurses were awesome. I would always get to chemo early so I could get the remote to watch, so we could all watch what I wanted to watch. So, which was kind of funny. They had seats around. They're all different now. Now they're private, but I was in a group chemo room at the time, but they did split it between women and men. And I kept saying, oh, I really need a wig. And she's like, oh, okay, because we have tons of wigs over here. And so in the chemo room, I was like, what are you talking about? So she starts opening up these areas, and sure enough, there's like bags full of wigs. So I'm just going through all these wigs, and I just pull out one that looks exactly like the one that I wanted in my hair color as well. And I said, can I have this? And she's like, absolutely, absolutely, use it. She's like, and when you're done, you can bring it, you can give it away, whatever you'd like. We're here for you. And I was thrilled. I think I saved like $400. So I did get a wig, but I didn't know I needed to ask. And actually, in the front waiting room, they had all these, like a library area, and they were actually encased. And so she goes, oh yeah, just open it up. And I was like, open it up. So she just opened it up, and there was all these wigs everywhere, and there were scarves and sleeping bonnets and all kinds of stuff, because you get cold when you don't have any hair in the middle of the night. And once I knew, I actually ended up helping another lady, and she was so surprised. She was just as surprised as I was. She's like, what, I can do that? I can take it? Yes, take this, please, take it. And then when you're done with chemo or your treatment, I just had them all washed and beautiful. And once when I started growing out my hair, I don't know when it was, I ended up making a huge donation to the cancer center of all my stuff, anything that I wanted to share. Excuse me. So I wanted to go through all of these nonprofits, but there is a huge list. There's a huge list. I guess let me just end, because this is already 30 minutes. Komen has lots of great programs. There's also an advocate in science program. At the time, it was before there were even 100 advocates in science. It was pretty cool at the time, and I'm sure it is now. But I was admitted into that, and that allows, once you get into these smaller groups, then they have other groups that go on trips. And so that include lab tours. I love lab tours. I love to meet researchers and see what they're working on, see nude mice growing with your tumor or someone's tumor on it, and seeing how the therapy is gonna help it. So, let me back up. So I started again with, let me go back, our advocacy. So there's personal advocacy, there's research advocacy. Yes, this is good. So research advocacy is, if you'd like to be on a panel for the Department of Defense Breast Cancer Research Program, they always need people. And if you're listening to this and you don't know anything of what I'm talking about, call me. I will give you a recommendation. I will help you. They always need people. So what happens is there's a whole panel of researchers and clinicians and patients. On my panel, I think there were 4 patient advocates. And so they're looking for people who have been to conferences, who can talk to researchers, who can have a voice and speak. You can't be timid at these things. You have to be able to say, if my patient population would hate that, whatever it might be. If you represent triple negative breast cancer, if you're African American, we need everybody. It's very inclusive, and they're very respectful. Like, we've had great conversations about research, because what you end up doing is reading their research application, and then offering your perspective on it. And then we actually all get to vote on the application. And in the end, you can keep up with it, but I don't know who gets funded, but you do your part in the process. It's a two-phase process. And then what I liked about research advocacy, you would have to go to DC. I think now it's online, is once you got chosen, there was a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You've got to read a lot of applications and put in a lot of responses. It's on an online module. And then you would meet together to discuss them. This was actually a paid position. So most of everything I was talking about has been volunteer or fundraise. This research advocacy position, or not even position, they need people all the time, was a paid, it was a stipend. We all received the same thing, even the doctors and the researchers. There's research advocacy, there's legislative advocacy, like I was talking about with Alamo Breast Cancer Foundation. If you have time to go and speak to your congressman or your senators, Alamo was fantastic. They would actually coordinate the visits. They would want to know your zip code because you represent your area, so you could go and see your congressman and help, share the message, expand on information, maybe ask them to vote in a certain way. Did that years and years and years. Even when I went to DC with the NBCC group, National Breast Cancer Coalition, they always schedule a lobby day. So each year I would end up in Austin a couple times and at least DC once a year. So we need lots of people for that, for legislative advocacy, because again, remember, you're the survivor and you have a voice. And then research, and then patient advocacy. So that's in regards to, for instance, CanCare I was talking about, or I think there's Emmerman's Angels. There's a lot of different groups. There's a patients group. I even taught Pink Pilates for people who had had breast cancer reconstructive surgery. We would actually have a series of Pilates classes for them, because I taught Pilates for years, to increase their range of mobility. And then I think we were also on the news with a video, with information. So there's just lots of opportunities to share what you like or what you're enjoying, and how it's helped you, and how it can help the world is the bigger point. So again, I'll share the poster. The poster behind me is what I shared at AACR. I think it's the American Association of Cancer Research. I love that group. Marge Fody, love you. And so what happens is, if you get, and I'll end with this, if you get chosen to be a survivor scientist program, you do have to bring a poster. And so what a poster is something that you're passionate about, something that you're working on, something that you want to share with people, because they put it on a big poster board in the hall, and all these researchers and clinicians are walking around just talking to people. They just talk, and everybody's like, oh, what's that? What are you doing? And I should have worn, I have a doctor's jacket with Survivor Scientist with my name that a whole bunch of us got, because we felt like we could actually share information that we learned with our community, and better communication, getting to people and sharing what we'd learned in layman's terms. And so that's what the trifecta effect is all about: the educated patient advocates. So I really wish there were more and more out there, and since I've shared this in 2013, I'm sure there are more. I'm hoping that there are more. If there are, please let me know. And I'd be happy to share this story with your group, or your people, or your Zoom, or in person. I've had this for a long time, and I just wanted to bring it up, because it's still very near and dear to my heart, and definitely want more people out there to become educated patient advocates, to help make those decisions in the future for their community, who have been through it, and who have that different perspective, rather than someone else saying, we think they should do this, but they really don't know. So again, I'm Sandy. Thank you so much for listening till the very end, and if you have any questions, let me know. All right, bye-bye.